Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%er show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, how Argentina, under the rule of Javier Milei, is becoming a far from friendly place for women's rights activists. I'll be talking shortly to author, journalist and feminist Luciana Peker, who's been forced to go into self-imposed exile. And as the French capital prepares to host the Olympics this July, we meet twin sisters who've managed to bravely train under Russian shelling in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv in the hope of winning gold for Ukraine in artistic swimming. But first, and for decades, Argentina has led Latin America in the struggle for women's rights, gender equality and LGBTQ rights. But with the election of Javier Milei as president last December, many Argentinians fear all that progress is now very much under threat. James Mulholland tells us more.
The last posts on social media pages by Argentina's Ministry of Women, Genders and Diversity say we made history. They date back to the 10th of December 2023, the day President Javier Milei shut the ministry down. Staff said, from the first day, the workers of this ministry have managed with commitment and conviction to represent the historical struggles of feminist movements and diversity and to translate these demands into public policies that save lives. Milei closed the ministry by decree less than a month after taking office. For some, it confirmed their fears he will roll back decades of progress on gender issues in Argentina, once a trailblazer for women's rights and equality. The president has repeatedly spoken out against radical feminists.
The only thing this radical feminism agenda has led to is more state intervention to hinder the economic process, giving a job to bureaucrats who have contributed nothing to society, whether in the form of women's ministries or international organizations dedicated to promoting this agenda.
Milei's closure of the ministry came at the end of a year that saw an alarming increase in the number of femicides in Argentina.
There is still in our country, Argentina, a femicide victim every 27 hours.
Aside that issue, rights groups are also alarmed over Milei's stance on abortion, which was legalized in Argentina in 2020.
Make Argentina great again.
Argentina's far-right leader campaigned on a platform of repealing abortion rights, which took activists in the country decades to secure.
And caught up in the backlash against feminism in Argentina are those women journalists who write about gender issues. Author and journalist Luciana Peker has recently gone into self-imposed exile and joins me today in the studio. Luciana, thank you so much for your time. We were in Argentina back in 2017 reporting on the Ni Una Menos movement, of course, which protests against femicide and also against women or violence against women in general. So at the time, we were talking to people about how the nation was leading the Latin American region when it came to promoting equality. So what's happened between then and now where you yourself have been forced to flee the country?
Argentina has led the way in Latin America. On June 3rd, 2015, we started the movement, Ni Una Menos, that you mentioned, and it was part of the fourth feminist wave, what's known here in France as the liberation of women. What happened since then is that the backlash you mentioned targeted Argentina specifically, because Ni Una Menos was such a powerful and effective movement, so strong that several laws were passed, including one in 2020 allowing legal and free abortion. The far right, which has financial and logistical means, was able at that point to violently silence women. And obviously, the economic crisis and the restrictions imposed by the IMF, all this meant that Argentina was the perfect prey for the election of a new fascist and completely misogynistic, authoritarian, and backwards man such as Javier Milei.
Neofascista y absolutamente misógino como Javier Milei.
But what happened in your case where you reached a point where you thought it's no longer safe for me to live in my own country?
The threats come from way back, since the peak of feminism, with the Green Wave protests and the movement Ni Una Menos. So I've been receiving threats since 2019, as is shown in a lawsuit from July 2023. There was a whole organization that was threatening and intimidating me, as well as other prominent feminists and journalists. The first attacks were on Twitter and other social media platforms. These stalkers are directly linked to the far-right Libertad Avanza coalition, which is now part of the government. They want to silence us. They threaten us directly, and they are linked to the security forces in Argentina, which were linked to the military dictatorship. They want to silence TV channels, such as Diputadas TV, where I was working. They banned the use of the feminine form of the word for an MP. To be able to continue writing and denouncing what Javier Milei's government is doing regarding women's rights and the freedom of sexual minorities, I need to be able to write freely. The problem is that, contrary to what Libertad Avanza says, today, women's freedoms are in decline.
In less than a month since taking power, Milei's government has closed the Ministry of Women, Gender and Diversity, seemingly reducing policies against gender violence to mere bureaucratic decoration, and has put at risk the right to legal, safe and free abortion. Do you think women are now ready to take to the streets again to protest against his government?
Yes, I believe that women have already joined the social protest against Milei's economic reforms, and they're going back to the streets. There is a certain degree of fear nowadays because cracking down on social movements is authorized, and most public voices have been silenced. There has been support from networks such as Twitter, where they openly support Javier Milei. And there is also a desire to do business with Argentina, trying to take our lithium resources and sell satellites. So this is simply business for men such as Elon Musk. What is important is that the violence did not start when Javier Milei took power. He took office because before, there was already a campaign of violence to silence the public voices of women.
So what is happening in Argentina is a pertinent reminder of the fragility of women's progress. So what would you say to feminists in other Latin American nations, not to mention women in other parts of the world?
I believe that it is extremely important to understand that Argentina, because of its economic crisis, was the perfect laboratory for the misogynistic far right to seek revenge against women, to lead a witch hunt for those of us who wanted to speak up, to tell stories about things that people did not want to talk about before. And I would tell women in Latin America, women in Europe, to march alongside women from Argentina, from the South, to follow them, read them, to support them, to listen to them. Because if the far-right laboratory is working in Argentina, misogyny is going to attack Europe and the U.S., where we saw legal abortion was revoked. And then in Latin America, it will slow down the legalization of abortion. And above all, remember the example we Argentinian women gave, that the world can have a positive transformation. The far right is telling us that setbacks are the only solution. As women, we want to tell you that a better future is out there. But if they manage to silence us, that future is in danger.
Luciana Peker, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And finally, we continue our series in featuring female athletes heading to the Paris Olympics this July. In this case, twin sisters who are one of Ukraine's best hopes of a gold medal, with both having won a bronze in artistic swimming at the Tokyo Games. But courtesy of Russia's war in Ukraine, the two have literally risked their lives in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv to keep up their training.
As identical twins, Marina and Vladislava Alexieva have a natural advantage for synchronized swimming. But as Ukrainians, they've had to overcome major adversity. Like so many others, the 22-year-old sisters fled their hometown Kharkiv as Russian forces closed in at the start of the war.
The war started and we was in Kharkiv. It was very big explosion, destroyed every buildings, our pool also, so we must leave our hometown, leave our parents, relatives, and we maybe 2 months we always read the news, we don't cry, we can sleep.
Before the invasion, the sisters won the bronze medal at the last Olympic Games in Tokyo. Now they're one of Ukraine's best hopes for the gold in Paris.
For now, it's like we have one goal, we must go for this, we must do everything what we can.
Despite regular bombardments and electricity cuts, the twins have gone back to train in their hometown Kharkiv near the Russian border. They've lost friends and fellow athletes on the battlefield and were among the Ukrainians decrying the decision to allow some Russian athletes to participate in this summer's games, even if they'll be under a neutral flag and banned from team events.
І усі командні види спорту, вони дискваліфіковані з Олімпійських ігор, тому ми, як російську збірну, не бачили з початку війни, так і сподіваємося, що довго не побачимо.
While they won't be going face-to-face with their Russian rivals, the sisters do hope to send a message. They say they practice for 7 hours every day with one goal in mind, to show the courage of their country to the entire world.
And that's all for this edition. But in the meantime, we would love to hear from you. So do reach out with your suggestions via Facebook, Instagram or X, of course, formerly known as Twitter. So until the next show, bye for now.